I like it under here.
Do you?
It's pretty fun. Okay.
Careful on the lens.
Careful, 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 careful.
Okay.
There, you have to go right there. That's where you're going to be working there.
Yep, right there.
Okay.
Alright, today's Sunday. So yesterday, Saturday, I was underneath the deck blowing out all the leaves against the foundation here. It's really important that you get the leaves out underneath your deck because bugs and snakes like to sit in those leaves and ticks, so it's just a good idea to get those leaves out of there. So while I was under here blowing out leaves, I found this major issue right here. As you can see, the downspout, this comes directly off the gutter, is disconnected from the drain pipe right here. So basically what's happening, all the water coming off the roof is just collecting right here, and that's a major issue. You definitely don't want to have any water going right up against your foundation. I've always had a little bit of a moisture issue in this corner of the basement, and this clearly explains why that's been happening. So there's a couple things we got to do here. One, I'm going to excavate down a little bit, below grade. Going to peel back some of this gravel and material. I'm just going to check that this connection for the drain pipe is still okay because it's a little bit loose. I'm going to have to reconnect the downspout to this drain pipe, which that's no big deal. But also, I'm going to repair the parging right here, and I'm going to go through the process of how I repair parging. So, first things first, let's start peeling back some of this material against the foundation. Alright, so first things first, I peeled back some of this material in here, this fill, which is a combination of gravel and dirt. Yeah, so I've also pulled out this piece that connects the downspout to the drain pipe, and I found a problem. This elbow right here was never glued in, which I don't really like that. I really want to do this right. I want to make sure that no moisture gets down in the basement, so really to make sure that there's not going to be a problem in the future, that needs to be glued there. So I am going to have to peel back more of this material right here in order to make a properly glued connection right there. This connection right here doesn't have to be glued because of the way it receives into this elbow right here. But anyway, back to the parging issue here. So first thing we got to do is peel back any material that's loose or material that's not really stuck onto the block foundation. So if you want to take a trowel and just, start getting some of the loose stuff off. And that's all you're looking to do, get the loose stuff off. Sometimes when you hit this stuff, you can kind of tell that it's not really stuck onto the block. It kind of sounds like it's hollow. Like that's fine. Like that. That should be okay. Okay, after you peeled off all the loose stuff, take a wire brush or a masonry brush and just try and get some of the dust off. Alright, so now I'm going to glue these two pipes back together. First thing, this is a two-part system, so you got to hit it with this primer. And yes, this pipe isn't as clean as it could be, but this is as clean as I can get it under these circumstances. Alright, next thing you got to do is apply the cement. And the directions say to put a layer on the pipe itself and the elbow, and you want to be kind of quick here. So this stuff Sets up somewhat quickly, actually. Let's put these two pieces back together. Alright, so we have this elbow corrected. This is glued now, so whenever water comes down the gutter and hits this elbow right here, it's not going to leak in between the elbow and the pipe. It's just going to flow down and carry away from the foundation of the house, which is really important. So while it's curing, I'm going to crawl back out from underneath the deck, and I'm going to get a bonding agent ready to go. Now, one of the challenges when it comes to parging block walls is getting that material to adhere properly to the block. If it doesn't adhere properly, then chances are it's going to peel off and it's going to fail rather quickly. So you want to make sure that that's adhered extremely well to the block. And what you can do to aid in the adhesion process is use something called a bonding agent. Now, they sell modern bonding agents. If you go into the concrete aisle at any of your major box stores, they sell concrete bonding agent, and that comes in like a 1-gallon jug. It kind of looks like Elmer's glue. But a YouTuber I watch on YouTube by the name of Mike Haddock, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. He's one of my favorite masons, really look up to him. He taught me that you can use something called an old school bonding agent, and basically you take straight Portland cement and you add water to it and you mix it up into kind of like a paint, and then you apply that directly to the block wall. So let's go mix up some of that. We'll wet this, apply the bonding agent, then we'll move on from there. Alright, so I'm going to do two things now. First things first is I'm going to get my bonding agent ready to go. And this is what I use. This is just straight Portland cement, so all you do, take some of this Portland, dry, and this is what I did. I used an old milk jug and I cut out an opening, and I just put a couple trowelfuls of this stuff in here. And then we're just going to add water and mix that up into a paint. So I'll leave this here for right now. Now the next thing I need to do is get my parging mix ready to go. Now the mix I use is 1 part Portland cement to 2 parts masonry sand. To 1 part Portland. Alright, so we have 3 buckets here. First things first, I'm going to fill up my water bucket, and I just have 2 sponges in here. We're going to need those later. This is the bucket we filled up with straight Portland, so we're going to add a little bit of water in this. And we're just going to mix this up into like a paint. Alright, so that's all mixed up. I'm going to go underneath again. We're going to wet the foundation, then we're going to apply this bonding agent with a paintbrush. I'm going to get this a little wet. Don't want to get it too wet. This will just help clean off a little bit of the dirt. And as Mike Haddock says, if you want something to stick, you got to wet it first. So that's pretty good. Now we'll take our bonding agent, old school bonding agent, a Portland paint. We're just going to paint this stuff on here. Just like that. And that'll help the new stuff to stick. Alright, so we have the surface damp. We've applied our old school bonding agent, so we'll crawl back out under the deck once more and we'll mix our parging mix with water. Alright, so here's my parging mix all mixed up. This is about the right consistency. The consistency I like it, you know, everybody has their own preferences, but really important when you mix this stuff up, add water very slowly because you can't take back the water that you put in. You can always add more water. And you'll know it's about right if you take some on your trowel, slam it down on the edge of your wheelbarrow, and if it sticks like that, you're good to go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a load of that, put it on my hawk, we'll go underneath the foundation, and we'll start parging. Alright, so we are ready to start parging here. As you can see, some areas this block is still wet, which is good. In some areas it's a little bit dry, so the areas that are dry, I'm lightly gonna mist it.
So I made a little mistake. The first time I wetted the block with the hose, it wasn't wet enough. And I knew that because when I went to apply the parging mix, it did not stick. So after I realized that the parging mix wasn't sticking, I took the hose, wetted the block again, and then I had no issues.
Ooh, that's too wet. Alright, so we got this wet. Let's take some, try and get this stuff to stick. Make sure you push the stuff on here, like so. Definitely takes some practice, but you can get the hang of it. You know, I'm not perfect myself, but what you gotta do is you gotta push this stuff in there. You gotta push it in there. Really want to make sure it sticks. Push it up in there. Try and get it up all the way up in there. See something like that? A lot of pressure. Smooth it out a little bit. Push it back into itself. And you're just trying to get it even right now. You know, we'll go back in here with the sponge and blend this in a little bit better later on. There's a little hole right there, so I'll take a little bit of trowel, push it in like that, get the finishing trowel, blend it in. That's pretty good. Alright, so all I do is take my triangular trowel, throw it on my flat finishing trowel, start at the bottom, and just push the stuff on like so. Notice that there was a high spot right there, so I tilt my flat trowel back a little bit, and then I just carry it up and then flatten it out where I want it to even out. Getting a little dry here, we'll add a little bit of water. Something like that. I'm going to work on this top edge. Get some on my trowel. Just push this up in here like that. Very nice. That's how it's done. Again, get some of this mix backside of the trowel. Push it up in there. Having no problem sticking because it's nice and wet. You don't want it too wet though, because if it's too wet, you'll find that this stuff runs. So again, working on this edge up here. Take my triangular trowel, push it up in that edge, and then carry it down along the seam. Like that. Corners can be a bit tricky. Alright, so I have everything roughed in. Now I'm just going to take this finishing trowel and I'm going to smooth out some of the high spots. This draws out a little bit of water. That's looking real nice. That's pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is I've taken my sponge, I've wrung it dry of any major water in there, and then I'm just going to lightly go over this a little bit, blend in the old stuff with the new stuff. Where the new stuff is, I'm going to push it back to the old stuff. Just blend it in a little bit. And also what this does is, you remember in our mix, It's 2 parts sand to 1 part Portland. So when you lightly go over it with a sponge like this, you're actually drawing out a little bit of the sand, which gives it a nice sandy finish. Not that anybody's ever gonna see this, but you know, it's just a matter of pride and craftsmanship. All right, let's try and neaten up this corner a little bit. Here's the finished product, and I'm pretty happy with how everything came out. The way the light is positioned right now, you can see every little imperfection, which you can see there's like a little low spot right there, but after I push this fill back in, fill should sit right about there. So yeah, this came out pretty darn well, pretty happy with this. Just another thing that I'm seeing right here is I have had a very small insect problem in the basement, and this is probably partially contributing to it. As you can see, this black crud on this wire, this is a speaker wire. That black crud is actually droppings from insects. And when they put this hole through the foundation right there, they never sealed it up with any kind of silicone or expanding foam. So when I come back in here to push all this fill back in, I'll definitely seal up this hole real well right here. And that'll be that. Oh, also another thing I need to do, I'm going to put a little screw right here between this flange and this downspout right here. I'm also going to put a screw in the pipe through this elbow down here just to make sure that this whole system is locked in and that it can never come uncoupled. And that'll be that. And hopefully I won't have any more moisture issues in the basement. So that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.